Hey, peace, y'all. Welcome to day 2 of reading the Common Law Handbook. It's a great time here. We're gonna have a great time here anyway. And yesterday we went over page. Oh, yesterday we went over page 1 through 20 of the Common Law Handbook. We got into the INA, which is the Immigration and Nationality Act. You know, how to renounce your state nationality, how to renounce your citizenship, thus confirming that there is a difference between citizenship and nationality, which is a fun time. And also, what else did we do yesterday?
We also filled in how to fill in a passport.
Oh yeah, we filled out the form together to get a passport, which was pretty cool. We learned how to do that. We were heavy on that international, the INA information. We were talking about the USC, which is the United States codes, conspiracy against rights, briberies. We talked about how the sheriff and the bailiff and basically the sheriff and the bailiff, they work in the court, and it's their duty to correct injustice as much as it is in their power to do so. Um, these are people that we do vote for. You have trial jurors and grand jurors. The importance of being in uh, a court of record where things are being recorded, because in that space and time, it's not the judge that makes decisions; it's the jury. And so, all that stuff is important. And then that's what made us get heavy into the INA. Congress cannot alter rights. States cannot license rights. Officers of the court have no immunity from liability when violating the constitutional rights. We got introduced to some other websites through the Brandon Joe Williams course, such as, John C. Lovett's website, which I believe was like blacksite32.com. It was another John Moonshine something. That was another website that got into like the details of filling out your passport and getting the passport card, and just learning how to fill out like address forms and learning how to sign your name all together was really important in that, because that is how you're supposed to be writing your address and your name moving forward on documents, whether it is to get your passport or not. I say now is a good time to get the passport and the passport card. If you do have the ability to get it updated, say you already have a passport and you're like, wow, I already have one, can I give it back? Yes, you can. You have a right to do that. We also got into the realms of your right to declare your nationality and your right to change your nationality. Nobody can take that from you. We also started getting into the universal laws with the United Nations and how they're set up. And we'll get into that more later. But the DS11 is the form that you want to fill out for the passport. And you guys can go back to the video of yesterday to get heavier into that. But it was a really good video. We had a lot of good information in yesterday's. So without further ado, we're going to start on page 20 of the Common Law Handbook for jurors, sheriffs, bailiffs, and justices. And on the cover, it says, "Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face." And that's Psalms 89:14. Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the governed. So, part 10 is the constitutional preambles. Both constitutions, U.S. and NY, and the Constitution of any real republic, the operative word is established and ordained. The people existed in their own individual sovereignty before the Constitution was enabled. When the people establish a Constitution, there is nothing in the word established that signifies that they have yielded any of their sovereignty to the agency that they have created. To interpret otherwise would convert the republic into a democracy. And this is the difference between the republic and a democracy. Hey, Jasmine. Hey, Shamia. Number 11 is government. We, the people, are a republic, not a democracy, which is just the first step of oligarchies, however you pronounce that. So, republic government is one in which the powers of sovereignty are vested in the people and are exercised by the people, either directly or through representatives chosen by the people to whom those powers are specially delegated. Okay, and that's in Minor versus Hepperset. Black Law Dictionary, 5th edition, has this definition as well. Democratic government is the form of government in which the sovereign power resides in and is exercised by the whole body of free citizens, directly or indirectly through a system of representation as distinguished from a monarchy, an aristocracy, or oligarchy. And that's from Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. I want to look up the word oligarchy because I don't know what it means, to be honest with you. And that's essentially what a democracy is. So oligarchy government um, is a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. A country govern. You can't. I don't understand why they do that. Using the definition, like when I was a kid, you couldn't use the word in the definition of a word. That doesn't make any sense, and I don't understand when we started doing that. But it's cool. Oligarchy, meaning rule of a few, is a form of power structure in which power rests with a small number of people. These people might be distinguished by nobility, wealth, family ties, education, or corporate, religious, or military control. That is what it is. That's what it sounds more so like what we're in now than anything. But that's what it leads to. Um, aristocracy, like the aristocrats. Let's look up that word. Because these words are associated with the democratic government according to the 5th edition of the Black's Law Dictionary. The aristocracy is a form of government where a small group of elites rule. Aristocrats or the ruling elites tend to enjoy both the social and economic prestige as well as political power. They usually have a specific honorary title such as duke, duchess, baron, or baroness. So that's what that is. So that's, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people know what a republic versus a democratic government are. I think that we just look at um, the presidential candidates and the emotions that we have tied to the idea of what a Democrat or a Republican is, and we go from there. And that's misinformation for the average individual. Duty of courts. It is the duty of the courts to be watchful for the constitutional rights of the citizen and against any stealthy encroachments thereon. And this is Boyd versus United States. It will be an evil day for American liberty if the theory of a government outside of supreme law finds lodgment in our constitutional jurisprudence. No higher duty rests upon this court than to exert its full authority to prevent all violations of the principles of the Constitution. And that's Downs versus Bidwell. We judges have no more right to decline the exercise of jurisdiction which is given than to usurp that is which is not given. The one or the other would be treason to the Constitution, and that's Cohen versus Virginia. It may be that it is the obnoxious thing in the mildest form. Hey, Lucas. But illegitimate and unconstitutional practices get their first footing in that way, namely by silent approaches and slight deviations from legal modes of procedure. This can only be obviated by adhering to the rule that constitutional provisions for the security of persons and property should be liberally construed. A close and literal construction deprives them of half of their efficacy. It leads to gradual depreciation of the right, and if it consisted more in sound than in substance, it is the duty of the courts to be watchful for the constitutional rights of the citizens and against any stealthy encroachments thereon. Their motto should be obsta principes, and that's Boyd versus United States. How you doing, Lucas? How's your day going, love? Courts of the record are common law courts and therefore courts of justice. Peace, Queen's faction. I think that's you that's still there. Peace, cuz. At law, Bouvier's law. This is the 1856 edition. This phrase is used to point out that a thing is to be done according to the course of the common law. It is distinguished from a proceeding in equity. Any court that ignores due process, all statutory courts ignore due process. It is not a common law court. Common law courts are courts of record. Let me repeat that because we talked about that heavy yesterday and the day before yesterday. Common law courts are courts of record. Okay, so that's why when you get summoned into a court, you have to ask, is this a court of record? All right. In all courts of record, the tribunal is the sovereign plaintiff of the court or the jury. The justice is the administrator, and it reflects the wish of the sovereign or jury because the people rule, not government servants. The following law of the land proves this point. In all courts of record, the tribunal is the sovereign. Let's look up the word tribunal, because that is who is sovereign, and we know sovereign is in charge. Tribunal means a court of justice. So the court of justice is the sovereign plaintiff of the court or the jury. Okay, so they're the plaintiff. That's the court of justice. Any court that ignores due process, all statutory courts ignore due process. Okay, so that's the regular courtrooms we keep getting summoned into. Hey, Sev, I think that's Seven. Hey, Seven, I like the way you say your name. Common law courts are the court of record, and that's where you want to be. You don't want to be in a statutory court. You want to be in a court of record, because the tribunal in a court of record is the sovereign plaintiff of the court or the jury. The justice is the administrator and reflects the wish of the sovereign or the jury. So in that space, it's not the judge that's making the choices. Okay. Hey, Peace King, how you feeling? How you healing? How's your day going? So that's breaking down that paragraph, just in case that was sounding like hieroglyphics. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. Yes, I have all three. We actually, this is the third one we read. We read How to Meet Your Strong Man. We read the, what was the other one? The UCC one?
Yes.
Yeah. And now we're reading the Common Law Handbook. And then after this, we're going to read the book on the credit bureaus. We should be done this book by tomorrow, if not Saturday. But this is what we're doing for the month of 7. This is the month of Libra scales. Hello, obnoxious vibes. Thank you. I appreciate you. So the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. And this is the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2. And when we finish reading these books, thank you for the follow. When we finish reading these books, we are going to start reading the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I really want to read the Immigration Nationality Act with y'all again. Thank you. Law of the land. Due course of law and due process of law are synonymous. I appreciate the gifts. Gracias. New York State Constitution, Article 6b. The court appeals the Supreme Court, including the appellate divisions thereof, the Court of Claims, the County Court, the Surrogates Court, the Family Court, the Court of Civil and Criminal Jurisdiction of the City of New York, and such other courts as the legislator may determine shall be courts of record. Courts are divided generally into courts of record and those that are not of court of record. A court of record is a judicial tribunal, and we know the tribunal is a court of justice, having attributes and exercising functions independently of the person designed generally to hold it, and proceeding according to the course of the common law. So it's not about the judge controlling everything. I'm about to shower and get ready for the show. Okay, respect. In a court of record, the acts and judicial proceedings are enrolled, whereas in courts not of record, the proceedings are not enrolled. The privilege of having... Okay, cool. In a court, wait, I lost my place. In a court of record, the acts and judicial proceedings are enrolled, whereas in courts not of record, the proceedings are not enrolled. The privilege of having these enrolled memorials constitutes the great leading distinction between courts of record and courts not of record. To be a court of record, a court must have 4 characteristics, may have a 5th, and they are: 1, a judicial tribunal having attributes and exercising functions independently of the person of the magistrate designed generally to hold it. 2, proceeding according to the course of common law. 3. It acts and judicial proceedings are enrolled or recorded for perpetual memory and testimony. 4. Has power to fine for imprison or contempt. 5. Generally possesses a seal. The people of the state, as the successors of his former sovereign, are entitled to all the rights which formerly belonged to the king by his prerogative. A consequence of this prerogative is the legal ubiquity of the king. His majesty in the eye of the law is always present in all his courts, though he cannot personally distribute justice. His judges are the mirror by which the king's image is reflected. Judicial immunity. New York judges are under the illusion that they have absolute immunity, but all the cases that are cited making such a claim are without authority, people, and will fail in the federal and state courts in a court of record. Only the people are sovereign. All servants are under statutes and therefore liable to USC 18 and 42. Where there is no jurisdiction, there can be no discretion. They are not above the law. When they commit a crime, they will go to jail and are subject to civil suits. No man in this country is so high that he is above law. No officer of the law may set that a law of defiance and impunity. Hello, little Z. All the officers of the government, from the highest to the lowest, are creatures of the law and are bound to obey it. It is the only supreme power in our system of government, and every man who, by accepting office, participates in its functions is only the more strongly bound to submit to that supremacy and to observe the limitations which it imposes on the exercises of the authority which it gives. And basically what that's saying is the people in New York, they're very egotistical. It's something weird in the water over there. Those judges think that they're untouchable. Basically, all the things that I just read behind this. And this is the New York State Constitution. Every state has its own constitution. It's very important that you get to know yours. I live in the state of New Jersey. I am intentionally moving to the state of Arizona at some point in time, so we will be going over those particular constitutions. If you have a constitution that you would like to go over, join us when we get to that space and time. But basically what this is saying is that the judges are not above the law, even though in this space and time they do behave as if they are. Hey Sal, how you doing? There is a general rule that a ministerial officer who acts wrongfully, although in good faith, is nevertheless liable in a civil action and cannot claim the immunity of the sovereign. Any judge who does not comply with his oath to the Constitution of the United States wars against that Constitution and engages in the acts of violation of that supreme law of the land, the judge is engaged in acts of treason. A judge must be acting within his jurisdiction as to subject matter and person to be entitled to immunity from civil action for his acts. The courts are not bound by an officer's interpretation of law under which he presumes to act. Where there is no jurisdiction, there can be no discretion, for discretion is incident to jurisdiction, and that's why when you get summoned to certain courts, you can question the jurisdiction. Right to practice law. The term liberty denotes not merely freedom from bodily restraint, but also the right of the individual to contract, to engage in any of the common occupations of life, to acquire useful knowledge, to marry, to establish a home and bring up children, to worship God according to the dictates of his own conscience. The established doctrine is that this liberty may not be interfered with under the guise of protecting public interest by legislative action. This is Meyer versus Nebraska. A state cannot exclude a person from the practice of law or from any other occupation in a manner for reasons that contravene the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, and that's Schwer versus Board of Bar Examiners. There can be no sanction or penalty imposed upon one because of his exercise of constitutional rights. The practice of law cannot be licensed by any state, which is lowercase, or state with an uppercase S. The practice of law is an occupation of common right. The assertion of federal rights, when plainly and reasonably made, are not to be defeated under the name of local practice. The right to file a lawsuit pro se is one of the most important rights under the Constitution and laws. The right to assist. Litigants can be assisted by the unlicensed layman during judicial proceedings. A next friend is a person who represents someone who is unable to tend to his or her own interests. Members of groups who are competent non-lawyers can assist other members of the group achieve the goals of the group in court without being charged with unauthorized practice of law. So that means that you don't have to be a lawyer that went to school to represent yourself or to represent someone else. As long as that someone else appoints you and says that it's okay for you to be their representative, same thing as having a proxy or an advocate, right? A POA. It's the same thing. It's like assigning someone. It's the same way as me saying these people are my, I'm the trustee, a beneficiary. You're appointing. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying this person is okay to represent me. You don't need to go to law school to represent people in court. You don't. And that's something, unfortunately, the way economics and capitalism has been operating in the public school system, they have taught us. And then Hollywood does play a big role in the way our mindsets are set up, when it comes to like Law and Order. Like Law and Order, SVU, Law and Order, these court shows, these police shows, these investigative shows, they've really shaped our mind, and we don't think to actually question how things really move. And that's how the government utilizes Hollywood to really shape our mind on things. You don't have to go to law school, and it's not that you call yourself a lawyer. That's the thing. You don't want to utilize their titles or utilize their acronyms or their ABCs, but you can assist people. Same thing with me. I don't have the ABCs and the credentials that the corporation would give me if I went through their portals, but I do have the education and experience well enough where people feel comfortable enough to trust me to appoint me to be their therapist, to appoint me to be their behavioral coach, to appoint me to do these things. Does that mean that according to the United States of America, I'm an official like doctorate? No, but I do enough for people to be appointed and trusted. I have a right to be appointed and trusted amongst the people. What else? There, every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow man without his consent. And that's Cruden versus Neal. And that is definitely a big one for the nationality, because if you do not get your consent, how are these statutes, cover you? Under our system of government, upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control him or her, except as his or her conduct to others, leaving him or her the sole judge as to all that affects him or herself. So again, that's why when you get pulled over or you go to court, whatever, you say, who is the injured party? Because it's only about you hurting someone else. That's the only thing you're not allowed to do, is hurt someone else. But if you're out here living your best life and doing things on your lonesome and you're minding your business, then you're not hurting someone else, then they have no jurisdiction. The assertion of federal rights, when plainly and reasonably made, is not to be defeated under the name of local practice. A state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the federal Constitution. The state cannot diminish rights of the people, and that's Hurtado versus California. The claim and exercise of a constitutional right cannot be converted into a crime, which is Miller versus U.S. If the state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen can engage in the right with impunity, which is Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham. While most people in America recognize the sheriff as chief law enforcement officer, or CLEO for the county, they would be surprised to know that the office of sheriff has a proud history that spans well over thousands of years, from the early Middle Ages to our own high-tech era. Hey, Churga. The beginning, the Middle Ages. More than 1,300 years ago in England, small groups of Anglo-Saxons lived in royal communities similar to modern-day towns. Often at war, they decided to better organize themselves for defense. Sometime before the year 700, they formed a system of local government-based groups of 10. Each of the towns divided into groups of 10 families called tithings. Each tithing elected a leader called the tithing man. The next level of government was, The next level of government was a group of 10 tithings, or 100 families, and this group elected its own chief. The Anglo-Saxon word for chief was Garifa, later shortened to reeve. During the next 2 centuries, groups of hundreds banded together to form a new higher unit of government called the shire. The shire was the forerunner of the modern county. Each shire had a chief reeve as well, and more powerful official became known as a shire reeve. The word shire reeve became the modern English word sheriff, the chief of the county. The sheriff maintained law and order within his own county with the assistance of the citizens. When the sheriff sounded the hue and cry that a criminal was at large, anyone who heard the alarm was responsible for bringing the criminal to justice. This principle of citizen participation survives today in the procedure known as posse comitatus, and that's why you have something called like a citizen's arrest, which still exists in today. And this also gives some insight on tithing too, because I had someone earlier, well, last night, early this morning, it depends on how you think about time, but they were like, yeah, tithes and offerings, that's what they kept bringing up when I brought about the Bible, and I'm like, bro, what are we talking about? But that is more so a governmental structure here, as far as this says, because each town was divided into groups of 10 families. 10 families is called a tithing, and each tithing elected a leader. They had a tithing man. So every 10 families had a leader. And then the next level of group government was 10 tithings or 100 families that had 10 leaders, and they would have one chief. So you see how that just keeps going up and up into a pyramid. The office grows. English government eventually became more centralized under the power of a single ruler, the king. The king distributed huge tracts of land to noblemen who governed the land under the king's authority. The office of sheriff was no longer elected but appointed by the noblemen for the counties they controlled. In those areas not co-signed to noblemen, the king appointed his own sheriffs. After the Battle of Hastings in 1066, England's rule fell to the Normans, France, who seized and centralized all power under the Norman king and his appointees. The sheriff became the agent of the king, and among his new duties was tax collection. This dictatorial rule by a series of powerful kings became intolerable, and in 1215, an army of rebellious noblemen forced the despotic King John to sign the Magna Carta. This important document restored a number of rights to the noblemen and guaranteed certain basic freedoms. The text of the Magna Carta mentioned the important role of sheriff 9 times. Can you write down Magna Carta? Because that's something else that we're going to come to and read. You hear me? Can you write down Magna Carta right here? You need to take the book to do it. No, you're not listening. Write it down in your notebook. Over the next few centuries, the sheriff remained the leading law enforcement officer of the county. It was an honor to be appointed sheriff, but it was costly. If the people of the county did not pay the full amount of their taxes and fines, the sheriff was required to make up the difference out of his own pocket. He also had to provide lavish entertainment for judges and visiting dignitaries at his own expense. The sheriff crosses the Atlantic. The first American counties were established in Virginia in 1634, and records show that one of these counties elected a sheriff in 1651. And this goes to show how ancient, well, not ancient, but old English or old European laws are enacted, and the old European government structure is enacted in America still to this day, because we do have sheriffs, we do have shields, we do have these flags with these old English symbols on it. If you look at a lot of the different public, quote unquote, public properties, they are, still owned by people in England. But 1651, that's not that long ago. Most other colonial sheriffs were appointed just as the noblemen in medieval England. Large American landowners appointed sheriffs to enforce the law in the areas they controlled and to protect their lands. American sheriffs were not expected to pay extraordinary expenses, however, and some actually made money from the job. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, colonial and state legislators assigned a broad range of responsibilities to the sheriff, which included the familiar role of law enforcement and tax collection. Other duties were new, such as overseeing jails, houses, and corrections of workhouses. As Americans moved westward, so did the office of sheriff and the use of jails. Settlers desperately needed the sheriff to establish order in the lawless territories where power belonged to those with the fastest draw and the most accurate shot. Most Western sheriffs, however, kept the peace by virtue of their authority. With a few exceptions, sheriffs resorted to firepower much less often than we have seen depicted on movies and TVs. So, I want you to read up to page 35. No God, no liberty, no God. You can stop right here. But we are starting at the sheriff today. Read to me about the sheriff today.
There are over 3,000 counties in the United States, and almost every one of them has a sheriff, except for Alaska. Some cities such as Denver, St. Louis, and Richmond, and Baltimore have sheriffs as well. The office of sheriff is established either by the state constitution or by an act of state legislature. There are only 2 states in which the sheriff is not elected by the voters. In Rhode Island, sheriffs are appointed by the governor. In Hawaii, deputy sheriffs serve in the Department of Public Safety's Sheriff's Division. There is really no such thing as a typical sheriff. Some sheriffs still have time to drop by the town coffee shop to chat with the citizens each day, while others report to an office in the skyscraper and manage a department whose budget exceeds that of many corporations. However, most sheriffs have certain roles and responsibilities in common. Law enforcement. A sheriff always has the power to make arrests within his or her own county. Some states extend this authority to adjacent counties or to the entire state. Many sheriffs also perform routine patrol functions such as traffic control, accident investigations, transportation of prisoners, and larger departments may perform criminal investigations, and some unusually large sheriff offices command an air patrol and even a mounted patrol and marine patrol. Sheriffs still enlist the aid of the citizens. The National Neighborhood Watch program, sponsored by the National Sheriff's Association, allows citizens and law enforcement officials to cooperate in keeping communities safe. This is why the new mission of the Indiana Sheriff's Association slogan is Building Communities of Trust in all 92 Indiana counties. As the sheriff's law enforcement duties become more extensive and complex, new career opportunities exist for people with specialized skills. Underwater diving, piloting, boating, skiing, radar technology, communications, computer technology, accounting, emergency medicine, foreign languages, especially Spanish, French, and Vietnamese. Court duties. Sheriffs are responsible for maintaining the safety and security of the court. A sheriff or deputy may be required to attend all court sessions, to act as bailiff, to take charge of juries wherever they are outside the courtroom, to serve court papers, to extradite prisoners, to collect taxes, or to perform other court-related functions. Jail administration. Most sheriff's offices maintain and operate county jails or other detention centers. Community corrections facilities such as work release and halfway houses. Sheriffs are responsible for supervising inmates, protecting their rights, providing food, clothing, exercise, recreation, and medical services. As jail conditions continue to improve, sheriffs and their departments are earning increased respect and recognition as professionals. Law enforcement is becoming increasingly complex. For the progressive, forward-looking sheriff's offices of today, education and training are the keys to effective job performance. Today's sheriff is likely to have a college degree, a graduate degree in criminal justice, law, or public administration, and several years' experience in the criminal justice system. Your Indiana Sheriff's Association, ISA, under the leadership of Executive Director Stephen P. Luce, is dedicated to working with ISA membership to ensure that the men and women who protect and serve the citizens of Indiana are the best trained and most qualified. President Ronald Reagan stressed the importance of the modern sheriff in his address to the National Sheriff's Association on June 21st, 1984. He said, "Thank you for standing up for this nation's dream of personal freedom under the rule of law. Thank you for standing against those who would transform that dream into a nightmare of wrongdoing and lawlessness. And thank you for your service to your communities, to your country, and to the cause of law and justice." Justice Scalia, writing for the majority in a 1979 1997 decision said that the states are not subject to federal direction and that the U.S. Congress only had discrete and enumerated powers, and that federal impotency was rendered express by the 10th Amendment. He confirmed that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer, CLEO, of the county, and also proclaimed that the states retain a inviolable sovereignty. Celia went even further in this landmark decision, one in which two small town sheriffs headed the feds off at the pass and sent them on their way. Celia, in his infinite obligation to the Constitution, took this entire ruling to the 10th power when he said, "The Constitution protects us from our own best intentions so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as the expedient solution to the crisis of the day." Obviously, the sheriff is the people's last line of defense against a government gone wrong. Liberty is mastered in three powers. Number one, light, God. Number two, justice, synonymous with virtue, judicial process. And three, rule of destiny, political process. Remove any one and you lose liberty. America has lost its way, and only a virtuous people can guide her back. And to that end, the people, by mercy of God, have rediscovered the common natural law, grand jury, and with his blessings shall return America to her roots again. Virtue. Maxims of law avow that justice and virtue are simultaneous. Before a man can implement justice, he must first possess virtue, which the Bible declares flows from the Lord alone. Luke 6:19, and defines virtue as whatsoever things are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and a good report. Phil 4:8. The Lord further expounds, saying, "The wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, and without hypocrisy." James 3:17. And that he that follows after it establishes righteousness and honor. Proverbs 21:21. Thomas Jefferson understood this when he said, "God who gave us life gave us liberty, and can the liberties of a nation can be thought secure when we have removed their only firm bias, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are all the gift of God, that they are not to be violated but with his wrath. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever." George Washington understood this when he said, "The favorable smiles of heaven can never be expected on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right which heaven itself has ordained. Benjamin Franklin understood this when he said, "Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters." John Adams understood this when he said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any matter." Patrick Henry understood this when he said, "It cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religious, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. For this very reason, peoples of other faiths have been offered asylum, prosperity, and freedom of worship here." James Madison understood this when he said, we have staked the whole future of American civilization not upon the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future of all of our political institutions upon the capacity of mankind for self-government, upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves, to control ourselves, to sustain ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God. Noah Webster understood this when he said, "No truth is more evident to my mind than that of the Christian religion must be the bias of any government intended to secure the rights and privileges of a free people. Father of American scholarship and education. XX. The name game, people or citizen. The 14th Amendment, Article 1, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges of immunities or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Nation. In American constitutional law, the word state is applied to the several members of the American Union, while the word nation is applied to the whole body of the people embraced within the jurisdiction of the federal government. Cooley, Cooley, Constitution LIM 1, Texas version, Texas versus White, 7 Wall 720, 19L, edition, ED. 227. Privilege. Black's Law's 4th edition, 1891. Is merely an accessory of the debt which it secures and falls from the extinguishment of the debt. Persons. Black's Law, 4th edition, 1891, are divided by law into natural and artificial. Corporations are bodies politic, quasi-municipal corporations, bodies politic, and corporate, created for the sole purpose of performing one or more municipal functions. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. People are supreme, not the state. Waring versus the mayor of Savannah. The state cannot diminish rights of the people. Ferdinando versus California. At the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country. But they are sovereigns without subjects, with none to govern but themselves. Chisholm versus Georgia. The people of this state and the successors of its former sovereign are entitled to all the rights which formerly belonged to the king by his prerogative. Lansing versus Smith. Ordained to act a constitution or law. State versus Dallas City. King is the sovereign ruler, holds the highest executive power, aka the people. Sovereignty itself is, of course, not subject to law, for it is the author and source of law, but in our system, while sovereign powers are delegated to the agencies of government, sovereignty itself remains with the people, by whom and for whom all government exists and acts, and the law is the definition and limitation of power. Yick Wool versus Hopkins. YICKWO.
Thank you. So what did we read?
The different protections for the American people, citizens, as well as learning how we're placed above, if not equal standing to the king. I would say we're above the king, actually.
Yup. Because they don't have no right to take away our laws. We are sovereign beings. We are the kings of ourselves. We are the kings of ourselves. No state can remove our law, and if the king is ruled over state, that means he cannot remove our laws. He can't remove our things. Hey, Scorpio, I didn't even see you over there. I'm just not looking at my phone. I'm sorry. So yeah, and the whole science behind the sheriffs and the counties and all that comes from medieval times. So we are still under medieval time law. And if we're still under medieval time law, that means that we are sovereign beings and the government does not control us. We control the government. But we've allowed television to convince us otherwise. And when I say television, I'm not just talking about TV shows and movies. I'm talking about the news. I'm talking about the stuff y'all see on social media. Some of these are acted out shootouts and all that stuff like that. Some of that stuff not real. Some of it is created and played over and over in your face so that you can move in fear and be afraid of these governments and these policy holders and all that stuff like that because you think they can do certain things that they cannot do. Their lives are not that exciting, I promise you. They're here for us. We are not here for them. We are not the servants. We are the masters. So you have to be some master of yourself so that you can be master of yourself, if that makes sense. But yeah, so let's get into. So we're gonna do 2 days today because the first one was only like 15 minutes. We got two short ones today. We have I'm sorry, it's 20 minutes. No. Yeah, two short ones. The first one is 18 minutes and the other one's 20. So I'm only gonna have you here for 40 minutes. So even with these two videos combined, it's still shorter than one that we watched. So we're gonna get through these two today. Video number 12 is talking about updating your driver's license and registrations, your permits and licenses. We went over how to fill out that form yesterday. Check out the video on our YouTube page from yesterday, where we walked through it, and I actually printed out a passport, John. Is like a rough draft copy where I wrote down my notes on. I suggest you guys do the same. Just print out a rough draft copy and get in the habit of writing your address a certain kind of way and signaturing or signing your name a certain kind of way. Now, video 13 is how to use your new passport and penal bond. So now you have this new passport, you got this new documentation. What do we do with it? That's a good question. So the next video is going to show us what to do with it. So yesterday's video was how to fill it out. This video is how to update things. And the next video is how to use it. All right, so we're going to get started. La la la. Excuse me.
Fucking hope that last one blew your mind. Blew my mind. I learned shit. I'm learning shit too going through this. I mean, there's always something new to learn. Like I said before, a lot of guys like David Strayed and Chris Hauser and Anna von Reitz and all these guys. There's another guy named Patrick Devine. I don't know a lot about him, but there's that guy. There's a bunch of guys, and they've all been doing this, way, way longer than I have. I'm kind of the new guy on the block, to be honest with you. I just ask a lot of questions and I clear up a lot of definitions, and I just dig hard and fast and ask a lot of questions. And I've taken kind of, I've read 2 or 3 books from Anna von Reitz. I've read several books from David E. Robinson, 3 or 4 or 5 of which weren't even from him. I've read, watched tons and tons of videos from David Strayed. I'm trying to learn from every single direction. And all of Chris Hauser's videos, including reading many, many documents that he's submitted, breaking them all down, getting all the definitions, buying documents from James C. Lovett, watching all of his YouTube videos, getting all of his documents, reading through all of his documents, and clearing up all the dictionary words, etc. So I'm trying to learn all the time, learning something new with these videos. So here's you. Let's regroup. Man or woman, this is you. Now at this point, where are we at on our contracts? Let's see here. I'm actually gonna let's see. Marriage. If you aren't married, then you don't have to worry about the marriage one. And when I say married is you have to have a marriage license. We're going to get into this later in a later video about marriage, but you can go to Alabama, and Alabama does not offer marriage licenses. They only offer marriage certificates. So you can get married in Alabama without having to worry about getting contracted into all the bullshit. So which ones have we wiped out pretty heavily? We've wiped out this one pretty heavily. We've wiped out this one pretty heavily. I guess public versus private commerce. This is involving opening a trust, a pure contract trust. This one we're going to get to way later. So here's all the contracts. Let's say you're not married. That'd be nice. Driver's license. We're going to cover that one now, including some other stuff. Permits or licenses. The passport's going to kill a lot of those. You can just get rid of them or you can change them. So we're starting to kill some fucking contracts here, man. We're starting to really kill some contracts. You're getting there. You're really getting there once you do the steps that we've been over so far. So on the driver's license, let's cover the driver's license very briefly. So on the driver's license, you're going to put CO on the address. CO on the address. You're probably gonna do no for the question that asks you U.S. citizen, and then you're going to sign human signature with using either agent or beneficiary as the title. I did agent because only trusts need licenses. Humans do not need licenses, so only trusts need licenses. So I did mine. I didn't want to sign it as a beneficiary because I'm not really the beneficiary. So I don't know. Now that I think about it, just do agent because it's just more honest. It's more realistic. You are an agent for the trust, signing on behalf of the trust, and the trust needs the driver's license. So when you sign for the driver's license, you're going to sign Brandon Joe Williams, agent. Oh, actually, I almost forgot. This is important. And most importantly, you're going to sign without prejudice. Bam. So go to the DMV. They're going to charge you, $20 or $35 or something like that. Tell them you want to change, you want to update your address. You want to update your signature on file. You want to update your citizenship status. You want to basically go through the whole thing and get a new driver's license. If for some reason, I don't think it'll be a problem. I had no issue. It was like $35, and I'm sure California is twice as expensive as everybody else. So $20, $30. You're going to go in. You're going to say no to U.S. citizen. Any questions at all that ask you anything about being a citizen of anything, just say no. State of Utah, just say no. Now, if it asks you, you have to be a state of Utah, and then you push no, and then it says, we're sorry, we can't give you a driver's license unless you're, then in that case, you can put yes, because you don't have a choice. But if you have a choice, say no. For sure on U.S. citizen, you're going to say no. You're going to use care of on the address. You're going to say no to U.S. citizen, and you're going to sign without prejudice, human name, agent on the signature at the end for your new driver's license. And when you do that, they'll send you a new driver's license, and you should get it in a week or two. And the best thing to do is to get rid of the driver's license. But honestly, I still have mine. You just don't use it. You don't even carry it on you. You just carry your passport on you at all times, your passport card. So as long as you just get a new driver's license and then just stick it in a drawer somewhere at home, if you ever need to rent a car or something, they're not going to let you use the passport. So you'll want to have a driver's license for that. It's nice to have one, I think. There might be some other people out there that think otherwise, but that's how you kill the driver's license contract, right? And then I guess I don't have a point on my list yet because I just completed mine recently. But when you make your trust, which is the private versus public commerce section here, where my thumb is, you can put your car into the trust, and then you can get the car plated in like South Dakota or something like that. I may go over that. I ended up sending in a form to like some kind of South Dakota Department of the Treasury and sent them some money and sent them the title. And then I said, this is going to go under this trust that I have opened up. And then they sent me back a registration and license plates saying that I'm the trustee and the trust owns the vehicle. And I'm a trustee of the trust, so I have permission to drive the vehicle. That's how I did that. Okay. And you're still going to need, and if you do want to still get insurance, you will need to get insurance under your driver's license. The only other option that you can get insurance is Progressive has a passport insurance. It's an international traveler's insurance. It's quite a bit more expensive. It's basically what they do is they add 5 points to what would be a driver's license. So the passport, there is no record of anything, because on a passport, unless you slam into somebody or hurt somebody, there is no infractions. There is no such thing as speeding. You can blow stop signs. You can drive drunk. You can drive stoned. You can do whatever you want, and you cannot be prosecuted or get any tickets. Obviously you shouldn't do that because that's kind of fucking dumb and you could hurt somebody. But as long as you don't hurt anybody, you can't get any tickets. So there's no record on a passport because you can't get tickets with a passport, really. So once you clean up your driver's license, once you have your passport, you can go get insurance if you want to from Progressive. They add 5 points. So let's say you've already got a whole bunch of points or you got a DUI or something like that. Once you get your passport, you can get insurance through Progressive with your passport. It's going to be expensive. I think my car is $200 if I use the $200 a month if I use the driver's license, and it's like $600 a month if I use the passport. So, but that's because I have like the cleanest record ever. And for the kind of car I have, you'd think I wouldn't, because it's like insane, like 800 horsepower monster. But for whatever reason, I just never get in any trouble at all, ever. And now I can't physically because I have my passport. So, it's up to you what you want to do. But if you've already got 5 or 6 or 7 points, or you've already lost your license, you'll have no choice but to just do the passport insurance. And it's like $600 a month for a really nice car, or it might be more or less. I don't know. But you can get, my point is you can get insurance. You can get a passport. You can drive a vehicle. You can have a vehicle with insurance if you want to do it that way. I'm working on some other ways to eliminate insurance entirely. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, let's move on. We just went over driver's license. We just went over all that stuff. So all licenses, all registration, all permits are all unconstitutional, and they actually deepen your relationship with their statutes via tacit consent. Once you get your new passport and everything, you can now start to eliminate or change your driver's license. Technically, you could go get a new driver's license before you do your passport, but I wouldn't. I would just do the passport first. If you're real antsy and you're waiting for a passport appointment at a post office and you want to go do your driver's license, go for it. CO, human signature as an agent, and without prejudice, and no to U.S. citizen. You don't need to have your passport or your revocation of election done to do that. You can do that now. We already went over the definition of a license. Your God-given rights are only not allowable when you tacitly agree to be a trust in your all caps name. Trusts don't have rights. So trusts don't have rights, and licenses are for trusts. Look at your driver's license, even your passport. Look at any other license you may have, such as a concealed carry permit, and you will see on all of those licenses and permits that your name is in all capital letters, because the permit or the license is not for you as a human being, as a man, as a woman. It's for the trust. The trust is a U.S. citizen. The trust is located in Puerto Rico. The trust has no rights, and you are acting as though you are the trust. To register, by definition, means to beg for approval or to beg for a benefit, and puts you under the entity you are begging, which places you in their jurisdiction. You know, when you beg for something from somebody, you're automatically assuming that they're senior to you and they have jurisdiction over you. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a parent. It could be anybody. That's just actions that prove situation. Just because you're not signing documentation to it, I mean, behavior is the best way to nail down someone's intentions or someone's thoughts, or the way that someone, you're acting a certain way in a court of law. They're going to show that he's acting this way. That's proof that you believe these things, that you believe you have no rights. It shows low self-esteem. It shows low self-trust. It shows low intelligence. It shows a lot of things. When you create a contract, you're getting a benefit because they're giving you this privileged thing, and it's supposed to be the benefit. So when you're contracted into something that gives you a benefit, they can now request things in return. That's how contracts work. So that's how they get you. Oh, I'll give you the benefit. If you just contract with us, then now that they're contracted, they can do other things to you, right? Because once they give you a benefit, they can now flip around and request a benefit back. That's kind of why you hear the term nothing's ever really free, right? There's some truth in that. You're getting a false benefit in exchange for now having to give something back in real value. And then also the act acts as tacit consent to not being human in the eyes of the law, because humans don't need licenses, only trust do. How can anyone but God give you rights? How can the people you pay to run your country sell and give you rights? You apply for rights from agencies you pay to have there. Does that seem correct to you? Are you granting the power of God to your government? Only God has the power to grant rights or take them away. These people believe they are God, and we allow this to happen. Passports. One of the definitions of registration is to prepare security for sale to the public. All these licenses and permits are actually turned into securities and bought and sold on private markets. It's all a scam for private corporations pretending to be government to make money. The government you thought has existed your whole life doesn't exist at all. They want your money and they want jurisdiction over you. And the way that they get it is through registration, licenses, permits. And also the U.S. citizen thing, obviously, right? And then here we have some case law from W.W. Cargill Company versus State of Minnesota. Looks like it's from 1901. The acceptance of a license in whatever form will not impose upon the licensee an obligation to respect or to comply with any provision of the statute or with the regulations prescribed that are repugnant to the Constitution of the United States. That means, like, even if you take on a license, it still doesn't mean that anything within that contract has any real seniority over the Constitution. You still have all your constitutional rights, regardless of what you're doing with your licenses. It doesn't matter. And so basically what they're trying to say in that quote is, you have the right to contract in any way that you want, even if it's fucking stupid and you're a fucking retard. But if you do stupid things, it doesn't mitigate the big boy, the big daddy, the Constitution of the United States. Your ability to contract as you see fit, as stupid as it might be, is senior to anything else. But you can't contract away your human rights, even if you tried, even if you wanted to, is basically what they're saying in this quote. So I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to go over for number 12. Let's keep this one a little short. We'll give you a little breather after that passport video. All right. See you on video 13.
Have you heard of turtle trade?
Hello. Hey there, guys. Welcome to video number 13. I've had a chance. I had some dinner and I was kind of chilling for a bit, and I had a chance to kind of think about passport stuff a little bit more. And there is some things that I want to share with you guys above and beyond. Basically, all the stuff that I'm going to be going over in this video. We're going to be changing gears in this video quite a bit. But the first part of this video, I want to go over some additional passport stuff. Once you actually get your 4 or 5-star passport, now how do you operate using it? Okay. So the first thing I want to go over with you is US 18 USC 1545. It says whoever violates any safe conduct or passport duly obtained and issued under authority of the United States shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. This is from my website, the resources section, but we can go ahead and just open it up on this bad boy too, and I could show it to you. Safe conduct violation. Whoever violates any safe conduct or passport duly obtained and issued under authority of the United States shall be fined under this code, imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. So in other words, as long as you're not doing anything crazy or illegal or whatnot, then nobody can stop you from traveling in your private non-commercial automobile for non-commercial purposes. Okay. I also wanted to show you 18 USC section 242, whoever under color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such being an alien or by reason of his color or race, then are prescribed for the punishment of citizens shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts involve the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results in the acts committed in violation of this section, or if the acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, which would be getting arrested without probable cause, that's called kidnapping, aggravated sexual abuse or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life, or both, or maybe sentenced to death. So pretty hardcore. That just means if your rights are fucked with or mitigated or destroyed in any way, then the person's going to get in trouble. And if you actually get hurt from what happened, they can get in a lot of trouble. That's what that means. And then we have the same thing, a little bit different. 18 USC section 241, if 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of him having so exercised the same, or if 2 or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse or an attempt to kill, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life or for both, or maybe sentenced to death. So this one here goes under conspiracy, conspire to injure, oppress, right? As we cleared up, I think it was in the introductory video or video number 2, conspiracy theory. We already looked up conspiracy, which is a group of people that are coming together trying to, figure out how to do bad things, usually secretively, right? So another thing that happens if you have conspiracy, which is multiple people doing this kind of thing. Another thing that falls under 18 USC section 241 is RICO laws.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products. It's Amazon's other company.
Passed in 1970, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, is a federal law designed to combat organized crime in the United States. It allows prosecution and civil penalties for racketeering activity performed as part of an ongoing criminal enterprise. Such activity may involve illegal gambling, bribery, kidnapping, murder, money laundering, counterfeiting, embezzlement, drug trafficking, slavery, and a host of other unsavory business practices. So basically, when you start getting conspiracy charges, you can start getting RICO. And when you get into RICO, you can kind of tear apart a group pretty aggressively, and you can charge people who are kind of up the command line that you wouldn't normally be able to get to because they weren't there. Extended criminal penalties and a civil cause of action for acts performed as part of an ongoing criminal organization. Okay. So if you ever have a situation where your rights are being violated, you have USC 1545, which is kind of like your right to travel and stuff like that and be someplace or go places or leave places that you want to be locational. Then you have 18 USC 242, which is anyone taking away any of your rights at all whatsoever. Single person. And then you have 18 USC 241, which is two or more people, which would be a conspiracy, which carries much, much larger, 10 times because this one's up to 10 years they can be served for all working together, which is 10 times worse than the other one, 242. So these are the main ones that you're going to need to memorize and have maybe on a piece of paper or maybe even on the back window of your car with little decals, something like that would be kind of cool. Or even on a license plate, because you don't really need a license plate. After you do all this, you can just get whatever license plate you want and just put kind of whatever you want on it. Registration, the way the registration, just as a quick side note, the registration on your vehicle, the way that works is basically when you get a state license plate and you get a title from the state, you're gifting your car to the state in exchange for a certificate of title. So they actually have the original title. The original title is called an MCO or an MSO. So what is an MCO? It's like a manufacturer's certificate of origin. Manufacturer certificate of origin. So what you're given, so this is what you're originally given. This is actually the original title, and then you give the MCO up to the state, and then the state gives you a certificate of title and exchange, but they're the ones who actually hold the original title. So the state actually owns your vehicle, and then you pay for registration and stuff like that. If you're paying for registration and your registration is renewed, essentially what that means is that you're paying to rent your own vehicle. Legally, that's kind of how registration works. Okay. in a lot of states and stuff like that, if you go to your registration sticker and you look very, very closely inside the hologram of your sticker, license plate registration sticker hologram. I don't know if it's going to show us. It says like authorized user deep inside the hologram. You have to look deep inside the hologram. It says authorized user or authorized driver or something like that. So basically the whole point that I'm trying to make is that if you can get an MCO, that's ideal. One of the ways you can get an MCO is you can actually salvage your vehicle. And when you salvage your vehicle, you get a new type of title. And you can just keep that rather than giving it to the state for a new license plate and a new title from the state. The other thing you can do is just simply get out of state plates and then just wait until the registration expires, or just get rid of the registration and cancel it. That's generally speaking how you can kind of get out of the jurisdiction of, because you have multiple areas of jurisdiction. You have the driver's license, you have the license plate, and you have the registration, right? So it's a little bit tricky. The most ideal way to be outside of the jurisdiction is to have the passport and then to also have the MCO. The next best thing is to have some sort of out-of-state plates with no registration or expired registration. That's the best way to do it. And then if you get pulled over, you just have your out-of-state plates on there with the old sticker on there or whatever. If you get pulled over, then you just give them the passport and you just show them, 18 USC 1545, 18 USC 242, and 18 USC 241. And that's all you need to not have to worry about all of the road-related, jurisdiction-related problems, right? So that's that part. That's your three main weapons that you're going to need in your back pocket at all times to operate using your new 4 and 5-star passport. And then the other thing I wanted to show you guys is like a side note, because I was looking for it before and I couldn't find it. I found types of passports. So this is really interesting. Okay, so you have a regular passport, a service passport, an official passport, and a diplomatic passport. Now, I know I said diplomatic immunity and all that kind of thing earlier. This is referring to a completely different type of passport. This is a foreign service officer or a person having achieved diplomatic status. You can actually pay like some astronomical amount of money and people can actually get these for you. I think it's like $100,000 or something ridiculous. I don't really see the value in that because the process that I showed you earlier on video number 11 is actually, I believe it's more powerful than these diplomatic passports. So when you know how to do it right, the diplomatic passport, I mean, I don't think it's as powerful as a 5-star passport. Then you have the official passport, right? This is, it's so silly. So this is your 1, 2, and 3-star passports. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and maybe even 4-star to some degree. This is an officer or employee of the U.S. government traveling abroad to carry out official duties and family members of such persons, right? So, of course, any U.S. citizen would fit that category. Number 2, a U.S. government personal services contractor. That's also a U.S. citizen. A non-personal services contractor traveling abroad to carry out duties in support of and pursuant to a contract with the U.S. government. An official or employee of a state, local, tribal, or territorial government traveling abroad to carry out official duties in support of the U.S. government. I would assume a 4-star is probably something like number 3 or number 4 here under official passport. And then a 5-star is a regular passport. I know it doesn't sound exciting. They probably named it that way on purpose to get people to look away from it. So A is regular passport. A regular passport is issued to a national of the United States. And then you have service passport. When authorized by the department, a service passport may be issued to a non-personal services contractor traveling abroad to carry out duties in support of and pursuant to a contract with the U.S. government. When exceptional circumstances make a service passport necessary to enable the individual to carry out his or her contractual duties. If I had to assume, I'd say a 4-star passport is probably number 4 here.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too.
Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first.
Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically. I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. People are saving real money doing this. 160.
An officer or employee of state, and then a 5-star passport is a regular passport. So there you go. Those are the different types of passports. Again, the 4-star is a big jump up from the other ones. And then moving on to a totally separate thing, because I just forgot about those things and I wanted to tell you, we're going to move on to point number 13 of the state national theory. So point number 13, we're going to be changing gears here quite a bit. So when someone's arrested, there are special bonds made and sold or traded called penal bonds. And this is one of the ways that the Department of Justice makes all the money that it makes, right? The bonds are the only thing keeping a person in jail. And if you pay off the bonds, the jail can no longer hold the person. This is a well-buried secret, and you can clear out the prisons with this information. So for anyone listening to these videos and they have family members or anyone that they care about that's in prison or jail, all you have to do is figure out how to use either their it would be their KV trust account. There's all the trust accounts associated with a person's social security number and stuff like that. You can use those trust accounts to pay off the penal bonds. And if you do that, then the jail has no choice but to release the person, right? I mean, obviously, I hope people aren't going to do that with bad people that deserve to be in jail for the did bad things. But these bonds are full-blown securities, and they're traded on private markets. The creation of these bonds prove that the courts are actually corporations. They are not government. They are private corporations making a fortune on bonds and fines. The purpose of a corporation is maximum profits for shareholders, so common sense and logic dictates the next question would be, who are the shareholders? Yeah. So there are some people who own private prisons. There's even some things I've seen on Facebook and stuff like that of people who own private jails. It's not even a secret. I mean, the jails are all privatized now. Courts that send people to jail for crimes with no victim are actually creating indentured servitude, slavery. They create and sell bonds on a private market, but they also get to create free slave labor by having prisoners work for pennies per hour. The entire justice system is a private corporation, and their two major money makers are bonds and indentured servitude. If you think companies like Nike and Apple might use cheap labor from other countries, you'd be shocked by how we have horrific slavery right here in the USA. We are slaves through taxation and also through the justice system. Again, the 14th Amendment didn't free the slaves. It turned us all into slaves, okay? Indentured servitude and slavery is more alive now than it's ever been all through history. When the 14th Amendment was ratified, it didn't free the blacks. It actually enslaved all of America. In fact, blacks to this day technically only have civil rights, not human rights. We've gone over that a little bit. I'm sure that probably wasn't the intention, but sadly that's what happened. I mean, now, after I wrote this a while ago, I'm probably thinking maybe it was the intention. The only people who are currently in jail who should be there are people who have violated common law, not statutory law. Statutory law applies only to corporations and trusts, not natural live humans, meaning men and women only. All people who have violated common law should be judged by a jury of their peers, and they should be educated in law and given a chance to repair the damage they have done. This is how a common law court operates. Law can be truly beautiful and sane. What you see in today's world is so horrific, degraded, and criminal. Law allows the defendant to face their accuser and allows the group to demand a change in behavior and reparations, not tickets and infringements and all the other bullshit that you see in society. Real law is where people are not bothered unless there is evidence that their behavior is hurting others. That is true freedom. That is true law. During an arraignment, you can ask for the penal sum, then pay it and walk right out. You've always heard that the rich don't go to jail. Well, that's how they do it. So there you go. I'm going to do another short video here. So that's all I'm going to do on this one. We'll move on to video number 14 here shortly. I hope this was useful for you. Do be sure to write down those 3 passport 18 USC 1545, I believe, 18 USC 242, 18 USC 241, and then do a little research on RICO and what it means. And because RICO is applied to any violation of 18 USC 240, section 241, which is a conspiracy charge. So you could probably link. So let's say, for example, there's some organization or something that you would say is being conspiratorial like that. You can let them know, look, I have this 4 or 5 star passport situation. I've done a lot of things to change my status, and I'm a beneficiary of United States, and as per 18 USC section 241 and RICO laws, you do not want to be committing conspiracy type fraud or conspiracy type anything with me, man, because you can press charges, or I don't really know exactly how it all works, but you can probably press charges and specifically press charges in that area, and I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be good or fun for them. So there you go. Okay, guys, I will see you on video number 14.